Hey guys, and welcome to the start of Neo-Noir November. This is honestly my favorite theme month of the year because I get to talk about some pretty awesome, incredible movies. And we are starting with a doozy, 1980s. Brian DePalma's Dress to Kill. And I know what you're thinking, Jason, didn't you just spend 5 weeks pretty successfully talking about Lovecraft while skirting around all the problematic areas of Lovecraft's work and personal life? And the answer to that is you're right. But I'm also apparently an idiot because I did not plan that when I was like, oh, well, last year we did Blowout. Why not move on to De Palma's next big noir movie? And that's Dress to Kill. So this movie, much like a lot of De Palma's career, can definitely be seen by some as I say homage, some say blatant ripoff of Hitchcock's work. This one I think is probably the most egregious of that because this is kind of just Psycho, warts and all. Honestly, this one's a lot more warty than Psycho. So this is Brian DePalma. It's kind of his American giallo. You got to think this is going into the 80s. Argento, Bava, a lot of the big names in Italy were doing these giallo films, which honestly is something I should cover at some point because I love movies like Bird with the Crystal Plumage and Deep Red. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about De Palma. So this was his big move into the 1980s after the success of Carrie and Sisters. This movie stars Nancy Allen, and let me tell you something. 1980 Nancy Allen. Woo! We'll get to it. Her, Angie Dickinson, Keith Gordon, a young, even younger pre-Christine Keith Gordon, and even younger, kind of, he always looks like he's in his mid-40s, Dennis Franz. And the other big name, probably the biggest name in the movie, now, not at the time it would have been Angie Dickinson, but now it's Michael Caine. And this is essentially kind of De Palma Psycho. So we have a huge opening in this movie, and let me tell you something. I know that erotic thrillers were around before and long after this movie. In fact, if you go back maybe last year on our live stuff, on our archive on Facebook, Nick and I did a underrated 90s thrillers live stream talking about our top 20 underappreciated 90s thrillers. And let me tell you, the erotic thriller was king in the 1990s. This is kind of the start of that because we start off with Angie Dickinson, who is very much our Janet Leigh character. Spoilers for this 43-year-old movie. Which we'll get into the spoilers of this movie, especially this one, because that is really important to the plot and the problems with this movie. And she is murdered by a mysterious woman. And that is witnessed by Nancy Allen's character. And so she has to figure out who the killer is because the killer is coming after her next. Again, this movie is a very beautifully shot. It has all the things you love about De Palma. His split screen diopters. You have this incredible musical score by Pino Donaggio. Absolutely fantastic. Full 70s giallo vibe in this movie. And again, besides the fact that it's a 1980 Nancy Allen, this movie is super erotic. The opening with Angie Dickinson, she has this really sexy cat and mouse game going on with this stranger at a museum. It leads to just kind of this weird moment in a taxi cab, only to then be brutally taken out of the film, very much Janet Leigh style, by our mystery killer. Now, unlike the Lovecraft stuff, let's just get into why this movie despite all of its kind of great moments as a film, is problematic. It is. This movie is incredibly transphobic, with Michael Caine being our killer, who they say is trans, but because he is still attracted to women, that's why he kills them. It's incredibly problematic. Even for 1980, it was problematic. Nowadays, 43 years later, it's flat out unacceptable. But I will say, despite all that, knowing what's going to happen, knowing some of the things that are said in this movie, which are absolutely egregious, I will say, still watching this movie as just a piece of Hitchcockian homage. Again, some people say ripoff, because the twist is it's a man in woman's clothing as a Norman Bates type. It's still fascinating to see. Number one, it's the filmmaking. This kind of weird giallo Hitchcock hybrid, I absolutely adore, and DePalma was the best at it. Whether it's this or something with, later on with Nancy Allen and John Travolta and Blowout, we even get movies that I'm sure we'll talk about down the road, like The Black Dahlia or Femme Fatale. He was king of these kind of Hitchcockian erotic movies. Even something as silly as Body Double really is, which is kind of an homage of Rear Window. But it is a movie that does need to be studied as a film. Now, as far as some of the subtext of the film is not something that you really should be seeking out. It is an interesting time capsule, though. So it is a movie that, while I don't necessarily recommend under the current day gaze, as far as the filmmaking goes, it is kind of a timeless piece of film history in the way that this film is presented. Knowing that does not apply at all to our story. I would like to see kind of something. I don't know if you could necessarily remake this movie without it just being absolutely benign, but I do think this is an important film in this genre. So with that, I do think it is something that should be talked about. And if nothing else, maybe with as problematic as it is, maybe it opens up lines of conversation with different people to discuss those matters. So in that case, if it does do that, which I'm hoping by talking about it here, we can do just that. So I do recommend, on a technical aspect, watching Dressed to Kill. Now, if you have problems with certain things, I don't blame you at all. I have no way to know, but I do say that as a film, you should check it out as a piece of kind of this genre. But the good news is we are all the way uphill from here, because this is, for the most part, our last little bit of problematic filmmaking for a while. On purpose. But I did want to address this movie because, again, coming off of a month of doing Lovecraft without having to really address certain problems with the man or his storytelling, it was nice to have a movie that leads into our next few weeks while dealing with a movie that head on that very much has a lot of problems, but as a piece of filmmaking is incredible for not only its day, but still today. The filmmaking aspect of this movie absolutely holds up, as much as the context of a lot of the movie does not. But that's what film discussion is all about. It allows us to talk about things we wouldn't normally talk about in the safety of the cinema. And so I hope that, if nothing else, we're able to discuss our thoughts and feelings, not only about this film in particular, but De Palma as a whole. Do so in the comments. And let's get that engagement up, because engagement turns out it's pretty cool. At least to the all-seeing algorithm. With that being said, join us next week, because we have a doozy. We are talking about the 1995 film Insomnia. No. we're not talking Christopher Nolan's remake, the original Swedish version of that movie. It's gonna be a blast, so make sure you join us here every single Sunday at 4 p.m. for weekly brand new movie reviews, as well as join us on our Twitch channel for our monthly lives, and even on the TikTok, because if there's nothing more fun to watch, it's a 38-year-old man learn how TikTok works. And until then, we've been discussing how to end these videos because I am terrible at coming up with a good ending. So leave your ending suggestions in tow. But until then, we discussed it, and Amber decided that I should just end each video this month with a famous noir quote. And so in that case, come back next week where we're talking about insomnia. And until then, forget about it, Jake. It's Chinatown. Bye.